Hello and welcome to the Browns Blitz. Today is Thursday, February 19th. This is episode number 335. I'm your host, Rod Bloom. Joining me today is my brother, Jeff. Hey, Jeff, how's it going?
Hey, going good, Rod. I see you relocated the studio again.
Well, since we're recording earlier, you got to pick a spot in the house where it's going to be quiet. So, yeah, I kind of have a floating studio. I got 3 different spots where I record, and this one's going to work best tonight. So I
There you go.
apologize for the lighting. It's not real good in here, but and I even shaved this morning because of the podcast and all that, and you guys can't really see me that well. So sorry about that, but yeah, it's definitely a floating studio. So,
Well, best to be
so
versatile.
yeah, we're gonna talk some Browns tonight, and with us is our guest. You know him as at UK Browns NFL. We're gonna call him Oliver. Oliver, it's great to have you with us. Thanks for joining us tonight.
No, thank you so much for having me. It's always great to talk Browns with fellow Browns fans. It's always great to talk Browns with anyone, let alone fellow Browns fans. So appreciate you guys having me on.
Absolutely. We've got we got a bit of Browns news to cover, and we're going to go into some other things too. But before we do that, and Oliver, I apologize because I kind of told you what we're going to be talking about, and I didn't tell you about this. But when somebody comes on the podcast for the first time, we always give them a few minutes to just tell us about their Browns fandom and kind of how that came to be. So I'm going to put the ticker on here, and we'd like to hear just kind of a little bit about your Browns fandom, maybe how it came to be, and anything you'd like to share.
Yeah, I mean, as a British NFL fan, it's the question you always get asked first. From any American fans you come across. How did you find your team? For some people, it is as simple as their favorite color. They like the city. They went to the city in a game, anything like that. For me, little bit more tied to it. I have family friends move not too far from Cleveland in 2004, and then we went over and visited as a family in 2005. Me, as a pretty impressionable 8-year-old, saw basically LeBron James, Cleveland Cavaliers everywhere, and I basically became pretty obsessed with LeBron James. As an 8-year-old from Britain. I don't know if you know much about British sports, but when you grow up watching British sports and then you watch LeBron James, you're quite taken aback by just how incredible of an athlete, and et cetera, et cetera. So that's how it all started, and then I kind of was an NBA fan, Cleveland Cavaliers fan, and then got more into the NFL kind of as the social media kind of rise, I suppose, when kind of Instagram and the kind of clip culture became a thing, and I'd see these kind of highlights of NFL. And when I actually kind of committed to getting into it, it was quite easy what team for me to pick. It was the team right by where my family friends had moved to, the team that my favorite basketball player, played for the NBA version of. So yeah, it was pretty natural transition to becoming a Browns fan, and then just over the years, kind of just building on that, and then probably taking over from the NBA fandom around 2017-ish, which is funny because you'd think, the Browns went 0-16 that year, but my first year at uni, first year with the means to watch all of the games, shall we say, and that's when I became as obsessed as I am now.
Yeah, well, I can say this for anybody who was watching the Cavs at that time. I mean, and Jeff, you can probably echo my sentiments. We were kind of taken aback by LeBron's athletic ability too, compared to probably some prior Cavs teams. Not all of them. There were definitely some good ones there, but yeah. Well, we appreciate you sharing that story with us, Oliver. So, guys, let's get into some Browns news. In no particular order, the Browns finally make their defensive coordinator hire. I don't know why I wrote OC down, but Mike Rutenberg is the new defensive coordinator by way of Atlanta, and steal from Kevin Stefanski, I guess. If some people get some joy out of that, fine, whatever. Hopefully hopefully it's just because he's a good coach, and and a good fit for the staff. But I guess just wanted to just get your reaction to that hire first of all, because we're going to get a little bit deeper into that with some other things in the podcast. But Jeff, what do you think of the actual hire and the fit?
Well, like I told you, Rod, first-time head coach, 3 first-time coordinators. What could go wrong? Yeah, it's all upside, right? It's all. Well, we'll see what they do. We'll see how they put this together and what their capabilities are. But man, we're really pushing the limits of credibility as far as I'm concerned when you elevate all 4 positions. So we'll see.
Oliver, what do you want to add to that, or do you have a different angle on the hire?
I mean, I suppose as someone, from my, shall I say, a younger generation, not to suggest that you strapping young lads are anything on the old side, but
Oliver.
I kind of have, I like the idea of first-time coaches because, as you kind of said, it's all upside. And don't get me wrong, obviously, if the opportunity is there to go and hire one of the better coaches, one of the better coordinators, of course, that is something you should pursue. But I would always rather hire the first-time guy than hire someone that has done it before but didn't do it at a high level, shall we say. I love Jason Tarver. I am a massive Jason Tarver guy. I'd have been so thrilled for him if he got the job, but he wasn't exactly a great defensive coordinator at his time at the Raiders. Corey Underlid, obviously the other guy that was reported to be the finalist, probably who I thought it was going to be just because of the ties with Munkin. Again, his one-time stint as a defensive coordinator didn't exactly go very well. So I don't hate it at all. I love the idea of upside, shall I say. It may be too much to my own fault. It has burnt me in the past. But I can understand why they've made, why they've gone for him, even though it might have been left field as kind of the head coach hire was as well. I think a lot of people weren't expecting it to be Rutenberg, but just kind of his history, working with Salah, a very similar scheme to Schwartz. I can kind of understand, well, not kind of understand, completely understand why, they are appealed to him.
Yeah. So last week we talked about David Njoku and his announcement that he would not be returning to the Browns. So this week we have the Wyatt Teller announcement. It kind of makes me just kind of wonder why these guys are making the announcement. I wonder if they had the talk with the Browns, and the Browns said, well, we don't want to bring you back, or if these guys are just like, yeah, I'm out of here. I'm not going back to the Browns, and I want to let everybody else know that I'm going to be available. So Oliver, what are your thoughts with Wyatt Teller? I mean, I think he might be a little easier to tell because of some of the stuff last season, but what are your thoughts about him and his departure and the announcement?
I mean, first on the announcement, as you said, it is odd that we've had, I don't think any other team has their pending free agents announced that they are, just to remind everyone that they are free agents and that, they're not re-signed with the team long term. So it is quite an odd thing to see. I appreciate it. Don't get me wrong. As a fan, when you get a goodbye message on these posts, it's obviously nice from the kind of fan and the personal aspect that you have with these players. But I can't say I'm surprised. I think, you kind of alluded to it there. We kind of had a hint that this was going to happen with how the kind of handling of him went at the end of the season, with him getting benched. We think we're not really too sure how they handled that. And obviously Tevin Jenkins, his backup, when he came in my opinion, played just as good, if not better. So I'm not exactly surprised by this. I expected it to come. Someone I really appreciate as a person. Everything he's done for Cleveland. His first 2 years here were incredible. Kind of was a massive piece in that offensive line in 2020 that was, the best offensive line in the NFL. But it kind of felt like the last few years his play, only regressed rather than rather than even stayed the same. So not really surprised by this one. But obviously, first thing should be noted is that I appreciate Wyatt Teller for his time in Cleveland and everything that he did here, and I wish him success in his next stop and his next endeavors.
Sure.
Yeah, Jeff, I think, in prior shows discussions, I don't know who said it, whether it was you or me, but I kind of think that, of the guys on the line, I think we thought that maybe Wyatt Teller might be the guy most likely to return just out of need, that the Browns would try to smooth things over and bring him back just because of not wanting to replace, all 5 positions. So kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think Nick said that last week. I think that he was looking for Teller to be re-signed. Personally, I think if they felt that they were going to keep Wyatt long term, they would have done it sooner.
Yeah.
Of the 5 positions on the offensive line, his is probably the easiest to replace. You've already got some guys in house who have played right guard. As I mentioned last week, I think the Browns have had a pretty good track record of developing guards. So are we going to get, year 1 and 2 level play out of that guy that Wyatt gave us, in those first couple of years that he was here? Probably not. But I think what we've seen over the last couple of years is as these guys have gotten older, the run blocking has just suffered. And we mentioned it before as well that pass blocking is technique, run blocking is effort. It's heart. It's getting dirty and beating the other guy. And as you get older, that gets harder, right? So, I kind of have felt for a while that Teller's days were numbered, and as Oliver mentioned, they kind of telegraphed that with the Tevin Jenkins moves in the last several games last year. So. It's sad when you see a player, send an "I love you." It's not you, it's me kind of a letter, right? Dear John, thank you, Cleveland.
Right.
So, I wish him well. I hope he can, get a few more years in this league. Maybe with a line that's a little bit more established. It doesn't need as many pieces, and can cover up for what he's able to do now. So we'll move on. It's not the end of the world, and I think it's kind of weird that these guys are telling the whole league to come sign me.
It's definitely unique. Like Oliver said, no other guys on other teams aren't doing this.
Yeah, so, at least not that we're aware of.
It's always the Browns. It's always the Browns.
That's all. Yeah. Things are just a little different here, but it's just it just gives us that certain appeal, I guess too.
Right.
So, so guys, let's talk about the Joel Bitonio and the whatever this was, an agreement with the Browns, putting off his decision, helping the Browns to not have to take this big cap hit. I'm not sure what exactly it is, whether he's still thinking of coming back or whether this is, to help the Browns out monetarily or whatnot. So I kind of just wanted to get each of your opinions on what you think it is and whether you want to see Joel come back if he, to Cleveland, if that's what he wishes to do. So Oliver, why don't you go first on this one?
Well, first and foremost, I would happily welcome Joel Bitonio back. I mean, one of the all-time Browns, in my opinion, in my lifetime. Been here his entire career, and even if you look at last season, I mean, I was having a look at the some of the numbers earlier, and he still graded out as the 11th best guard. Shall I say left guard? So not quite as incredible as obviously all guards, but still graded out as the 11th best starting left guard in the NFL, which was significantly better than Wyatt, who graded out somewhere in the 20s. And you mentioned it earlier that was it Nick that said that he expected Wyatt, if anyone was going to come back, it would be Wyatt. I was in that same boat, I think, for most of the time, but I think now if I was to be asked that, I would say maybe it is Joel Bitonio. We had that date, the 16th, that it came and went, and then we didn't hear anything, and it was kind of like, okay, are they preparing a retirement video, or what's happening here? And as you kind of alluded to there, it was announced that this has been pushed back. So is it because he's kind of mulling over his decision, or is it purely just to give the Browns a little bit more flexibility? I would probably, there hasn't a guess, say he's probably mulling. I'd say it's probably a bit of both, but I think he's definitely mulling over, over the decision. Maybe the Todd Monking hire, him coming in, maybe it's injected that final little bit of, give it one more go. But I can't blame him if the decision is retirement. But obviously, any way that he can help the Browns, spread out that 24 million left that we owe him across these void years. Obviously, the better.
Yeah, Jeff?
Yeah, so I'm also of the thought that it would be great to have him back for another year. It helps the Browns organization in a number of ways. Of course, financially, we're already strapped for cap space. So anything that helps to alleviate that and spread it out is a good thing right now. It allows us to go out and get other players that can hopefully make this team better. From a stability at the position standpoint, when you're replacing 4 out of 5, anyway, that's a big challenge, right? And getting all those pieces to mesh together. So, yeah, if you know that there's one guy that at least initially can give you pretty high level play, and again, the pass blocking is there, the run blocking not so much anymore. It's declined a little bit, right? But just to be that anchor, that guy who's got some experience there, that for at least the beginning part of the season, you can count on, is a big deal. And lastly, odds are very good we're going to have a rookie left tackle playing next to him, and maybe a rookie center playing on the other side of him. So that experience, as a guy who really called the protections for the offensive line, would be a big deal in a transition year. So, yeah, I'm hoping that they can come to some sort of an agreement to extend him, spread the money out a little bit more, get him to play one more season, help us get over this hump. Plus, he's just a good guy to have around. Joel's a fun guy to listen to him talk about the team and the city. So, yeah, I hope he sticks around for another year. I think they're probably leaning that direction. If Joel was a hard no, I think it would have been done already. So I would agree with that. So
yeah,
let's hope he comes around. And the Browns haven't shown a real propensity lately toward convincing guys to stick around. But let's hope they can get it done with Joel.
I think the new or the returning offensive line coach, George Warhop, could have something to do with this decision too. Sounds like there's a good relationship there.
Yeah,
from
I think,
when he was in Cleveland.
Was
his
he?
last go around was.
Did they intertwine?
Yeah, he was around when Joel was playing with
Joe Thomas was.
Yeah, with Joe Thomas. Yeah. So when those guys were both playing, so I'm sure he's weighing a lot of different things, but I would think that's one thing that's definitely a positive for him.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Guys, I really kind of wanted to take. Well, let's hit one other thing. I just heard this on the way home today. Did you guys hear the Vegas odds for wins over and under? The over under on wins, the total is out. Did you guys hear this number?
No.
Yeah, I believe it was 6.5. I think I saw
6.5. Okay. Yeah, I'm thinking it was 5.5 last year. The Browns have a like Jeff mentioned, a rookie staff. I don't know if the team is going to get younger again this season, even younger than they were last season. I mean, obviously the rookies from last year have a year under their belt, but there's probably going to be almost that many rookies again this season, making the team very young.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of this win total? Just that number. Do you think that's a good number to? Is that where you would have set this number? I mean, obviously it's Vegas, so they know what they're doing.
Softer schedule, that is the only way I can explain it.
Yeah.
Softer schedule.
And I think I saw that.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I think I saw that every time that the Browns have had their win total at 6.5 or higher, 12 times they have finished with less wins, and 4 times they have finished with more wins. I think that's just another Cleveland Browns stat we all are not very surprised by. You both said it there. Schedule is obviously the biggest factor here. I think that it's hard to argue anything else. This is obviously what appears to be on paper a much easier schedule than last year. But I would say it's probably fair, but I think I'd wait until we know the opponent. Sorry, I've got a bad throat. We know the opponents, but we don't obviously know. There's things that can go into the schedule. We haven't had free agency yet. We've not even had the draft yet. So it's quite hard to put a number on any team really now. But I don't think that's too egregious, shall we say?
Yeah, and I think there probably be more optimism about division games this year. Would there not be? Would the Browns go 2-4 last year? Is that right? 2-4
division?
Or 1-5?
It might have been
1-5. 1-5.
2-4, I think.
2-4.
Yeah.
They beat the Steelers and the Bengals in the last week, last game, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if you go 3-3, then well, we'll see. Okay.
So other teams in our
turnover
other teams are.
I was just going to say the turnover in the division as well.
Issues too, so. Yeah. A lot of reasons.
Yeah.
A lot of reasons.
Yeah. I did not hear numbers for the other teams in the division. I don't know. It'd be interesting to look at those, but we're a Browns podcast, so we'll pass on that for right now.
So you probably know what better than to ask me, but I'm taking the under on that one.
I'll be honest, I would take the under, but right now, I mean, just based on what Oliver said too, but if you're just looking at the Browns over the last 20 years, how many times have they won more than 6 games?
Right.
Probably, it's probably not a very high number. We don't need to look that up right now either, but it's probably not a high number to bet on the Browns to win 7 games. It's a small number. It's a pretty small number. Yeah.
All right. So before we move on, Ron, I have another over/under for you.
Okay.
So I'm going to set this number at 6.5 also. And it is the week in which the cries start from the fan base for Todd Monken to give up play calling.
6.5.
Yeah. So week 6.5 is my over under. So I'm going to take the under on that also.
I would probably
just because we're Browns fans.
Because we're Browns fans, because we are better at calling plays than any coach.
Right.
Yeah. No, I would take that.
I think that parlays into the other over under.
Yeah, it does. As far as when he actually gives up play calling, I wouldn't hold your breath on that.
We'll see.
This is Todd Monk. Yeah, I don't think he's going to give up play calling. At least not in 2026. Yeah, no way. So guys, I want to kind of launch into the rest of this. I kind of want to put all this together and then take it into different pieces. So my question really starts with the fact that the the staff is in place now, and we're kind of in this flux of the silly season where we're hearing all these names floating around, and of course everybody who's talking wants to tie the Browns to every player who's out there. But we're also trying to figure out, how much of a leash Monken's going to have, how big of a rebuild this is going to be, how young this team's going to be, how active they're going to be in free agency. What we have no idea what they're going to do at the QB position, if they're really going to try to bring in a vet or not, or if they're just going to kind of stand pat. There's also what I really wanted to dig into is how you build this team to the strengths of the offense under Todd Monken and the defense under Mike Rutenberg. And obviously, with the defense under Mike Rutenberg, it's probably not major changes, but you might want to do some tinkering. It might make you more likely to bring in certain guys rather than other guys that you might have brought in under Jim Schwartz. So I guess let's just start with how you build the team first, and then we'll get into some of the names that have come up and stuff. But I really want to know just how you guys are thinking this building of the team for this season, and how you think they might be looking at it over the next couple seasons as far as getting competitive and winning, how that looks to you. So I don't know whose turn it is. Jeff, you want to go first on this one?
Sure. Yeah, we've already sort of laid out the guardrails in the press conferences that, there's not going to be any 32-year-old signings. So we're going to be pretty judicious with our free agent money this year. We might pull off a trade if one presents itself. But mostly, I think what's going to happen is this team's going to get built through the draft. So we're expecting to get a lot younger, as you said, Rob. We've got 10 picks. There have been entire shows devoted this week to trade downs that don't even make sense from a draft point value standpoint. So, yeah, look, I think a lot of it is finding young guys that we think have a lot of upside that can fit into needs, both short and long term. Andrew Berry has always said that you draft for the future. Those other moves are made for this year. So, which kind of didn't really hold much sand last year because we played rookies so extensively.
Yeah.
I would think that we maximize our draft picks, a couple of key free agent signings, probably somewhere along the offensive line. Could be at any position, really, as far as I'm concerned. But probably one free agent on the offensive line and probably one free agent on defense. I threw out a name last week at cornerback. Could be a safety, could be a linebacker, could be another D-line guy. I mean, I know how they love D-line guys. But I think one key guy on each side of the ball in free agency, and then maybe some lesser moves in free agency to kind of fill out the backside of the roster. Mm-hmm. And that trade, that trade thing, again, I don't see it being a big splash. It's going to be somebody that a team is really trying to fire sale, like we've seen with Amari Cooper and Jerry Jeudy. So all of that put together gets you to a respectable group this year that's very young, that's going to take some time to season, and you're going to have to add more pieces in the future.
Yeah. So Oliver, what do you see? Do you see anything different from what Jeff said?
I mean, not really. I mean, you kind of echoed it there from the kind of standpoint of. I mean, I've never really been a fan of spending all your money in free agency anyway. I think we've got a pretty good track record of how that doesn't usually work. The best teams didn't build their teams through free agency. They usually built them through the draft and obviously trades and etc. But there's a reason why these players enter free agency. It's because the team that had them didn't value enough to extend them. So I agree with on there. When we talk about building this offense for Todd Monking, I think day one it starts with the offensive line. That's just that's the one thing that has to be addressed more than anything. People can talk receivers, etc. I understand that, but for me, it's this offensive line. A Todd Monken offense is not going to operate without an offensive line. No offense is going to operate without an offensive line, but especially a Todd Monken offense. So that's going to be priority number one, I believe, in both in free agency and the draft. As you kind of said there, I definitely expect at least one free agent signing on the offensive line with the intentions of a starter, not just some guy they brought in on a veterans minimum, hoping that he can, maybe surprise some people and win the job. No, I think they will go and get someone that they believe can be the starter week one. Is that a Rasheed Walker at the tackle position? Is that a Tyler Linderbaum on the interior? Obviously, we'll find out. I would obviously be happy with either of those guys, but yeah, I think free agency and the drafts, I wouldn't even be that shocked if we get 2 offensive linemen with the 2 first-round picks. I think it's that high of a need. And when you look historically at especially tackle position in the NFL, the majority of the all-pros, they're drafted in the first round, and they're with the team that drafted them in the first round. So if that's what you want to do, I think you have to, it's not sexy, shall we say, to draft offensive linemen in the top 10. Everyone wants the receiver. Some people want the safety. Everyone wants these kind of more athletic positions. No one wants the bigger guys. But for me, I've, as I'm sure both of you, most Browns fans have been sounding the alarm on this offensive line for a few years. It's not just been the last 2 years, but that's kind of been the accumulation of all of it. And so for me, it's just, first things first, year one. You can't fix it. Rome wasn't built in a day. So let's do the best that we can to address this offensive line. And if we can bring in some other weapons, we're going to need a tight end, obviously, with Njoku going. Does that come through the draft or free agency? We'll see. But I think for me, the main focus is the offensive line.
Right. People who have been listening to this show for a while, Rod, will remember back in the 22 draft, when I was beating the drum for Tyler Linderbaum. Unfortunately, the Deshaun Watson trade happened, and we had no picks for the next 3 years. So, there wasn't an option there. But if you can settle a position like that for 3 years, and all it costs you is money, when you need so much on the offensive line, for me, if you can convince him to come here, Tyler Linderbaum would be a perfect piece to build around. Particularly if you get Petonio to stay another year, now you only have to answer 3 questions. And with what you've got on the roster and what you can draft, I think you can get through 2026 with a pretty decent group of linemen, right? It's not going to fix everything, but I would be a huge fan of paying him whatever you have to pay him to bring him in here. Rasheed Walker, not as much. I'm kind of over, mid-tier tackles. I'd like to develop a couple of top-tier tackles, even if it takes us a couple seasons to do that. So yeah, I'm with you, Oliver. Let's go get those guys early in the draft and commit to them. You can't go back and draft guys that you missed out on in the past, but they better not miss them again this year.
Yeah, so let's stick with the offensive side of the ball, and I think you guys have zeroed in on Todd Monken. They got to fix the offensive line first. I think
he's got to be able to run the ball, Rod.
Yeah, well, yeah, 100%.
His offense isn't going to work if we can't run the ball. Nobody's offense is going to work if we can't. And we've got the running back. We just need to give him some holes. We need to give him some push on the offensive line.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%.
And Linderbaum will set that tone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we keep coming back to quarterback because it's a question because we really don't know what the Browns are going to do. we hear that they're going to address it. They're always trying to upgrade every position. It's the same talk all the time. We don't really know what that means. That could mean that Dylan Gabriel's not on the team, but another guy that they take in round 6 is.
Right.
That could be the solution this season. And if that is, but they make upgrades all over the place, every place else, then maybe that's okay for this one season. But the Browns are being mentioned like every other team with a lot of these other guys. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on some other guys for either stopgap or for the future. A guy that Jeff just mentioned to me earlier today. And one guy that everybody's talking about is Kyler Murray, and it sounds like the Vikings are maybe a spot for him, but I don't know if anybody sees Kyler Murray as an answer, but would you guys be interested in bringing him in on a deal that would make him, a part of the QB room where Arizona takes most of his salary and we're not tied to a long-term deal with him? Does
Oliver's
that
already
interest you
shaking
at
his
all?
head.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Well, if we can avoid long-term risk and they can take on a lot of the money, then maybe I can be talked into it. But anything long-term involved with Kyler Murray, I'm not really interested in. I saw ESPN Cleveland talk about this and how he's, they were so adamant how he certainly raises your floor. And, they've had one winning season in the last 5 years in Arizona. So I'm not entirely sure how much he raises that floor. Would it make sense in a Todd Monken offense? I suppose so. But is he even the same athlete after these injuries? I'm not entirely sure.
Right.
So I wouldn't really be, there'd have to be pretty special conditions for me to get on board with Kyler Murray. And for me, there's two guys that I would take a swing on, shall we say, over anyone else, and that would be Malik Willis or Anthony Richardson, which I know a lot of people don't agree with, but that's just kind of how I am at right now. But for me, with the quarterback position, I'm just not interested in bringing in a Russell Wilson, one of these kind of veterans that best case scenario, they give you average quarterback play for a year. In that scenario, why don't you just start the younger guy? Why don't you just start Shadur in that scenario? I'd rather give Shadur another year of development than get a year of average QB play out of one of these older quarterbacks. So if you are bringing someone in, that's why Malik Willis and Anthony Richardson make the most sense for me. Malik Willis, you would be bringing in as the starter. Don't get me wrong, because the money that it would cost to bring him here is, you're not going to give someone 25-30 million a year and tell him to go compete with Shadur Sanders, a 5th round pick from last year, and Deshaun Watson, everything he's been through. So I think Anthony Richardson from that point would make the most sense, because I don't think it would cost much to get him. You're not exactly tying yourself long term with obviously what's left on his contract. So that they're two guys I would be looking at the most. But for me, I want to bring competition in because I'm not content with what's in the room right now. I think Shadur deserves a chance. I'm not saying that he should be shipped off and they should trade him or cut him or whatever. I think he definitely deserves a chance to compete for this job. But I'm not content with naming Shadur Sanders the starter in February. I'm not even entirely convinced that he beats out a healthy Deshaun Watson, and that's more of that's not so much me praising Deshaun Watson by any means. It's more so the other way round. But so that's why I want to bring competition in. But as I said, I want it to be competition with the idea that someone like an Anthony Richardson, that if it does work out, you then have long term. You can build on rather than a Russell Wilson or someone like that.
And Jeff, before you answer this, I was thinking about this, and I kind of feel like what they do at the quarterback position will kind of tell us a little bit about what they think the expectations are this season. But then I'm thinking, I think going into the draft last year, I think that I thought a trade down meant that Stefanski and Barry had at least 2 years, and it didn't.
Yeah.
So maybe the quarterback doesn't have anything to do with what this season really is about. Maybe it's just if you have a chance to get a guy, you try to get a guy.
Yeah.
You try to bring a guy in if you think he could be a guy who could do something for you.
Right.
I don't know. I'll let you give your thoughts now.
Well, again, this team's not real good at this kind of stuff, so it's hard to say. But I think we learned last year, at least some of us learned last year, that you can't answer 3 questions at one time. You've got 3 questions on the team right now. If we move on from Dylan Gabriel and bring in another question, then you still have 3 questions. So for me, unless there's an answer there, you're kind of whistling Dixie. You might as well at this point just understand that there's a reason Vegas has you at 6.5 wins. We think that's going to be a stretch. You're going to be a young team. Why go out and spend $30 million on a quarterback and use up a year of his contract on a team that's not going to win?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if you're looking for upside, the upside is maybe there's a third guy that we bring in who's a long shot. Okay. Hope we don't have to ever see him play. The 2 guys that are on the roster that look like they have some playing ability, nobody wants to see Deshaun Watson, but I tend to agree with you, Oliver. A healthy Deshaun Watson probably starts ahead of Shedeur Sanders. So nobody likes that idea. Nobody's comfortable with it. But I think the odds are better than 50-50 that happens. He plays for a little while, and Shedeur probably plays the rest of the season. And maybe, you get to the week 15 or 16, and whoever that third guy was gets a few snaps, right? But it has to be a transition year at quarterback that sets you up for one of 2 possibilities. Either one of those 2 guys proves all of us wrong and becomes a viable NFL starter going into 27,
mm-hmm.
or we go in the draft in 27 or some other way and find our starter going forward. Quarterbacks can come from all kinds of places, like we've said. You can find them the next Sam Darnold, don't cost you money, or you can hit on one of those reclamation projects on your own. So there's a lot of ways it can happen in 27. I just think we can't look past this year expecting it to happen right away. We just have to think about what makes sense for this roster at this point in time.
Yeah, and speaking of whether you want to call him a reclamation project or an NFL starting quarterback or what, you mentioned C.J. Stroud to me and how the Texans aren't happy with him because of how he does in the playoffs. And
well, the Texas fans aren't happy with him. I don't know that the Texans aren't happy.
Well, that's a good distinction. Thank you.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So I don't know what the Texans are actually thinking, but if the Texans were actually thinking of moving on from him, what do you think it would take to get C.J. Stroud from the Texans? And would you be willing to give that up at this point?
I guess it depends on who you listen to, right? If you're really unhappy with him, and he's really terrible, he gets worse at playoff time, like some other quarterbacks, right? Then he's probably, and the Texans want to move on from him for that reason. Then he's probably not going to take a lot to get him, which serves the argument really well, right? That he's a terrible quarterback. We won't have to give up much to get him, but let's go get him because he'll make us better. Well, that's kind of a stupid argument in my mind. That if he's no good in Texas, why would we think he's going to be good here, right? So realistically, I don't think Texas is parting ways with him. If they were, it was probably going to do something like that. It would probably be another Deshaun Watson situation where someone's going to have to give up the house to get him, and we're not in a position to do that.
Oh, we're not doing another trade. If we the Browns were to do another trade with that, it could not be with the Texans.
No,
please. You don't pick quarterback at number 22. You don't take a wide receiver in what was it? Third round, and you don't give up 3 first-round picks to the Texans. Okay.
No, not in my lifetime.
Oliver, what are your thoughts on C.J. Stroud?
I mean, I was just going to say, I mean, would you do it for 24? If it just cost 24, would you do it? I mean, I think I'd be tempted. But obviously, I mean, this is the last year on his rookie contract. Obviously, he's got the 5th-year option next year. But maybe it wouldn't cost that much because, as I just said, you're not acquiring a big time contract. It's not going to cost them really anything to move on from him. But why would they move on from him? It just makes no sense. Why, as you kind of said there, the fans can complain all they want, but you've got a quarterback that's taken you to the playoffs and AFC Championship 2 of those years, I think, well, nearly the AFC Championship. So, yes, the performances haven't been there, but the winning has been there. It would be pretty unprecedented for a team to move on from their first round quarterback after winning the amount of games that he has won there. So I don't think this is something that is actually serious. I think this is just being floated around at this time of the year where people just want something to talk about. But I would give up 24 for him, to be honest.
I would too.
I would too. Yeah, no doubt. So what about the AJ Brown, Tyreek Hill? Do you guys think it's a year too soon to think about going after a free agent wide receiver like that? Whether you like those guys or not, Tyreek Hill, of course, is coming, hopefully coming back off his injury. So you don't know how much of a season you're going to get out of him anyways this year. So those are no's, I'm saying.
Yeah, I wouldn't be. I would not be interested in either Tyreek Hill. 32 years old and just blew his entire knee out. I think that's certainly a risky move. Mike Evans, I could probably be talked into. If you think you're going to be good, which we kind of had that discussion earlier. Some of the moves that they make will indicate whether they think they're going to be good this year or not. But I think if there was a free agent wide receiver, it would probably be, more on that cheap kind of 1-year deal than giving anyone a long-term deal, just because of the position that we are in right now. And I'm not against that. I just don't think you should give an older wide receiver, 4-year deal in free agency. It just never seems to work out.
No, especially not in Cleveland. So, guys, let's go back. Let's go back to defense now, and Mike Rutenberg. Him being named defensive coordinator. How do you guys think that changes the way they build this defense at all? The type of players they look at in the draft, type of free agents they look at. I mean, he's a defensive back guru. Do you think they try to do anything different there? What are your thoughts? Or do you think it's just kind of business as usual? Andrew Berry's going to just pick best players and let him have them.
The only thing that Rudenberg might bring to the table is a few more blitz packages. His history is a little bit more blitz happy than what Jim Schwartz was. A little bit more zone heavy, but not a big difference. I think this team is structured to play man and rush from your 4-man sets. So if you're going to blitz a little bit more, I think you might need another big body in the back 7. Is that somebody like Sonny Styles in the draft? Or is that, I mentioned Alontae Taylor last week as a big slot corner that can blitz. That might help to sway where they spend that money. Other than that, I don't. I think this defense is pretty well cast. There's not a lot that can change in one off season with this defense. It's going to be an attacking defense that plays a lot of man and relies on its coverage guys to give the rushing guys and up front, the pass rushers, time to get home. All right. So again, I could see one key piece added to that defense. One key piece, maybe in free agency and in the draft. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they took a defensive player high in the draft, like Sonny Styles. If he was to fall to 24 and you've already got who you want at 6, maybe you've picked up another high pick that will let you get both of those guys that you need, the receiver and the tackle, right? So if you end up with that extra first rounder and Sonny Styles is sitting there and Rutenberg's saying, hey, I like what he brings as a compliment to Schlesinger, then yeah, let's go, sign me up.
Yeah. So Oliver, how optimistic are you about the coming season and the direction of the Browns right now?
Wow, great question. I mean, I'm always going to be optimistic than most, I think. I mean, I even contemplate, but when I came up with the name UK Browns fan, optimistic kind of Browns fan, that was somewhere in there that I was come across my ideas. I've always been accused of being over optimistic sometimes, shall we say, in my fandom. I apply that to most sports because, my favorite saying in sports is that, the best thing about sports is there's always next year. So I'm always going to have that belief that, once the season ends, as bad as it was, you've always got that chance to kind of reconfigure, go again. And why can't it be your year? I understand we're Browns fans. It's not been our year for a very, very, very long time. But as I said, I'm always going to be on that optimistic side. So as I'm sat here in February, I'm going to say that with the schedule, with a new head coach, the kind of boost that we've seen historically that teams can get with, when you bring in a new head coach and the first year kind of buzz you get from that. So I'm fairly optimistic. I'm not saying we're going to win the Super Bowl by any means, but I feel better now in February, which is weird to say, about this team than I did last year in June, July. And I think that's just because the nature of the coaching staff changes and what I kind of expect them to do, with the moves that they made in free agency and the draft. But they could completely ruin all of that optimism by making very silly moves in free agency and the draft. So we'll have to wait and see until then.
You're right. You're right.
So am I putting you down for over 6.5 wins, Oliver?
I'm going to do it. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go.
All right. Gotcha. We will revisit that down the road.
I'll probably regret it.
We optimistic guys. Yeah, we say things that we are sorry for sometimes, but it's always fun to say them.
The year before the last, I do another podcast, separate to my Browns one, like an NFL one. And I had a pretty bold take there where I said the Browns would go to the AFC Championship game, and they ended up winning 4 games. So that kind of shows you how you can get burnt by the optimism.
Yeah, I can't say that I've been very far from that sometimes. I think I've picked them to win 12 games when they've won 3 or 5. So, yeah, same. So, all right. Well, let's get some final words here tonight. Oliver, it's been great talking to you. And we didn't even mention you have your YouTube channel and your podcast. You want to shout those out so everybody who's not already checking them out can find you?
Yep. So I mean, most people that come across me on Twitter, and I encourage people to not, keep faith. I promise not all of my tweets are indicative of my YouTube videos, etc. With how the fun that I can have with it. But no, I cover the Browns from a fan view, from a UK Browns view, on my YouTube channel. You can find that at UK Browns NFL, or just type in UK Browns fan, which I think comes up now with my channel versus what it used to. But that's where you can find, if you want to hear a British guy talking about his views on the Browns, usually rants, but sometimes positive as well. That's where you can find that. And, as you mentioned there, I do another podcast as well for UK fans, but obviously anyone is welcome to come and listen. UK fans talking about the NFL, and that you can find that at Hurdle the Line on YouTube and on all social medias as well.
Awesome. Are any closing words you'd like to leave everybody with tonight?
Well, I just thank you both to you two so much. I really appreciate talking Browns. When you're a British guy from where I am from in Britain, there's not many Browns fans here. I say not many, there's none. So that's why I started my YouTube channel, was just this kind of way to talk to Browns fans. And I'm very grateful for what that's led to, and the interactions that I can now have with Browns fans like yourselves, and just really, really grateful for to have these conversations. And I always say it as someone that is clinging on to that younger side, that I want the Browns to win, for all Browns fans everywhere, more so than I do myself. And two fans like yourself that diehard fans, committed fans. I think you're both the best of the fan base, and I really appreciate you guys having me on.
Thank you. It's been great talking to you. Jeff, closing words tonight?
Yeah, thanks, Oliver. It's always great hearing from our international fan base. We've got the combine coming up. I wanted to mention real quick that I'm going to be closely watching tight ends. This is a favorite of mine, Rod.
Yeah.
We're here. We are again looking for another tight end. But in the past, I've had some guys by this point in time that I was really sort of dialed in on, and I'm not quite there yet this year. I've got several prospects, several suspects, but haven't really nailed down who I think will be that ideal fit opposite Harold Fannin. So I'm looking forward to seeing that when we get started in Indy. Obviously, lots of other guys we want to look at as well, but that's going to be my primary focus. And hopefully I can come back in a week or two and give you some ideas on that.
Yeah. We're going to end the show here, but would you be happy if they took Sadiq at 24? No,
I would not be happy.
I didn't think so. All right. Well, this has been the Browns Blitz. We thank everybody for listening, and we will catch you next time.